Hello Paul, hello community of developers digging AI. This is my proposal for exercise number 23 about face mesh. Your demonstration was very clear and the assignment was to create a class to make it easier to get this kind of data from the mesh, facial recognition, face detection. So I took back my previous classes for the details of it. You can see my previous videos. Just one change here I implemented in the camera, all about drawing circles and text, which are just methods like shortcut methods or utilities to draw the circle on CV2 and put text on CV2, etc. Which will make it easier to use those functions from other classes. And here you have the initialization of a font size, font colors, etc. Yes, okay. Handy pose and face, there's no change. Yes, the new class here is class face mesh, which is using media pipe, of course. Mesh finder is a property that we'll use here. Solutions face mesh. Filters here, class constants that will be used to filter the results, get a partial result. We'll use ranges, which will be arrays. We see that later. But just note now that filters are just arrays of values, arrays of index. Pix pixy are the denormalization functions that we explained earlier in other videos. New thing here is in the mark to tuple, which existed in face class 2. This time I add an information. I add the possibility of information about the original index, because when we grab partial results, maybe we want to know the original index from the marked landmark. So it will be added after the position tuple. So the structure here is a little bit different. Method find faces with a filter here. Filter which will be, as we just saw, an array of desired indexes. Start with an empty mesh list. Results contain the result of the process on the frame RGB. And if there is something in the result multifast landmarks here, we will process it and iterate through all the face landmarks. So for each face landmarks in multi-face landmarks, we will create an array of landmarks which will be created from the tuple of the current landmark and index in the landmark of face landmarks. We add here condition if filter equals false, which is the default value, means that there will be no filter, or if it's not false, we will use the filter, and we want the index here, the index of the current landmark, to be in the array of the filter, which will represent the condition to take this landmark into account in our result. So when we have created the landmark here, the array of landmarks, we just add it in the mesh list. If there is no face detected, we'll get here a value error or type error and handle the exception, which is just passing here. And afterwards we return the mesh list. Okay, we can illustrate this first method here with this method call. We call find faces with a filter range, or with no filter first, maybe. And what we see here is that we get all the all the data for this single face. Yes, it works. So now we can test with a range. We just want landmark 20 to 30 by a step of 3. We could also provide an array, for instance. So we will see everything here. Let's say 3, 19, 36. Oh, there's one bracket too much here. Okay, so we want those 3 landmarks. Okay, and we see here the result. So that is one face found, and for that one face we have 3 tuples with inside of each tuple 1 tuple of the position and the index representing the original index of that position. So if we have to treat them, we can do it easily. Okay, this was the approach with the direct input of an array, and as I said here, you could also use the range function, which will give us an array here from 20 to 30 if you want by step of 3. If there is no step given, step will be defaulted to 1. Okay, that's it here, and we have the same result here: 20, 23, 26 and 29. Which is consistent with our parameters here. Okay, this is if we want to get the data. Other thing here is the display. with a draw face here. So for all the mesh in mesh list, we will call circle. We draw a circle on the position of the mesh. We don't forget that the mesh element is a tuple with inside of it index 0 a tuple position, index 1 is the index. In this case, in this first case for the circle, we don't need the index, the original index, so we can use here a garbage variable which is underscore, and we get the position that is given to the circle method of the camera, and it will draw a circle. This is to show that you can have here a third parameter which is show index for debug or whatever. You want to display the index in a text, so by default it's false, but if it's not false, if it's true, you can here just draw the text, and this time use the corresponding text, which is the index. Okay, this time you grab the position and the index. You use the index as a text for the text box at given position. Okay, this is for drawing all meshes. Still the same system with the filter, which is true or false, or dry one mesh here. Okay, so if we want to illustrate this, we can do it first without without text here, and we launch it. Yes, and you see an illustration here of a filtered output, which is for the right side. We give a filter which is face dot filter right side, and we see that in our definition here, filter right side is an array of values ranging from 249 to the end, and left side is from 0 to 249. Well, I saw that from 0 to 10 or something like that is the center line, but well, just to illustrate, we can document this later, and most important is to set up the system here. So if we want, for instance, left side now, we launch it again, and this is my left side. Okay, Q, yes. Of course, if I give no filter at all, I can launch it again, and we see that we have the whole face. What should I show? Yes, let's say here we give a filter that would be 0 to 10 for instance, and or filter. So name parameter and show index to true here. And I just show here 0 and 10 because my filter is the value 0 and 10, not 0 to 10. I should use a range for this. Okay. If I want 0 to 10, I will use here a range 0, 10. I see it's almost the center line. On this 7 value here, that little bit something else. Didn't quite yet understood the logic behind the numbering of all the zones. I saw it's polygons. But it's quite hard to find documentation about it, or at least a logic about the numbering sequences. Yep. Okay. I deserve a sip of coffee, I think. Oh, and my friend here. Yeah. So it works too with multi-faces indeed. I see the profile is quite flat. Now, I saw in the documentation that it's a modelization. The documentation is quite interesting. But not very practical indeed. So I hope it suits you, and thank you for watching. See you later. Bye.